Let's see if this all works, shall we? Good evening, everybody. Welcome. It's been a while. I haven't been here in quite some time, and we're going to talk all about it tonight because I really want to talk about when to call it quits. And by when to call it quits, I mean there's a lot of stuff that we can do to convince ourselves that it's time to quit whatever, right? Quit our job, quit creating content, quit our relationship, quit whatever it is that we love doing. A lot of times we hold on longer than we need to. We languish with anxiety and we get in our heads about what we should be doing versus what we are doing. And so, with that, I want to talk about that a little bit tonight. And if you're here, go ahead and jump in the chat. I'll be checking it occasionally, probably about every 15 minutes. But if something pops up or if something I say resonates with you, just throw it all in the chat and I'll see it. But I'm only one person. I can only do so much. But it's been quite a while. I haven't done an episode in a little bit. I've released a handful of content here and there. I've done some stuff with opinion talking head stuff. I've done some content, been doing a lot of photography work. But one of the things that I have not been doing is podcasting. I have not been here with you like I kind of promised I would be every Wednesday night and every Friday morning. And I'll tell you why, because this is going to be a different type of episode. Well, I think you're used to me kind of going through and being a little bit vulnerable, but this one, I really wanted to kind of open the kimono, bare a lot of things, because the conversation that I'm about to have, I've had with no less than 5 people over the last 2 weeks. And so when that happens more than one time, clearly it's on the minds of a lot of my friends. And if that's the case, then I want to talk directly to you. So I think I'll speak predominantly from the photography world. Now, let's level set here so we can have an expectation for the rest of the conversation. Everything is good. Everything is great. Life is good. I'm healthy. I've got a great relationship. I've got great friends. My business runs. But you still have to think about your own self-awareness. Where do you fit? What are you aligned with? What feels really good to you? And are you staying true to that? And if you're not, when do you call it quits and change and shift into something else? So, for the past couple of episodes, now these are not going out as audio episodes. These have been YouTube lives only. For the past couple of episodes, I've been predominantly talking about AI and my world within AI and how I'm wrapped up in architecting things in Claude Code and not only building things for my business, but getting drawn into the world of coding and development and systems architecture. And this kind of harkens back to what I was doing years and years ago at Cisco Systems when I was doing HR business architecture, when I was doing IT acquisition integrations, HR acquisition integration, right? All of that stuff. I've kept up some chops, but it feels really good to be in AI and creating and looking at code, right? I'm vibe coding. I'm not going to say that I'm going to sit here and be an engineer, but being able to understand Claude or really any LLM well enough to be able to know when it's working and when it's not. And I don't mean just like, oh, this sentence is off or this email doesn't read right. The real nitty-gritty. Why does it behave the way that it behaves? So I've been wrapping myself into that the past couple of weeks. And it hasn't gone well. And what I mean by that is I've spent an inordinate amount of time deciphering, trying to decode, trying to get to the bottom of why the results that I'm getting out of AI are racked, racked with false positives, with information that's incorrect, with hallucinations. And I'd love to blame it on the model itself. I'd love to blame it on Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or Llama or any of the models out there. I'd love to blame it on that, but I can't, because the problem's me and my need for control over my environment. Now, control isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in this case, I stopped letting the LLM do what it's designed to do, which is take some input, go think on its own, spit out the output, whatever predictive output that would be. And I started to get into persistent memory, trying to figure out, how does this thing keep memory going? How does it remember everything that I've done? Now, I've got a relatively complex environment that I have, but the rules for it are relatively simple. Here's my voice. Here's my working style. Here are the things I want you to do. Here are the things I don't want you to do. Now, this is, I've got the setup system where you basically teach Claude to interview you, and you have a whole bunch that you can put in about your business. And it really does teach Claude the fundamentals of who you are and what you do. That all works great. That hasn't changed. I'm talking 3, 4, 5 levels above that, where I'm really getting into scripting and hooks and gates and checks to make sure that the output that's coming to me is as clean and as viable as it needs to be. So, without going down the rabbit hole of exactly what's happening, and I can show you stuff later, but it's taking up an incredible amount of time. And what I was finding was I was spending about 25% of my time working in AI was spent fixing it, correcting it. That's not a good use of my time for something that's supposed to be helping me. And it's supposed to help me help you. By learning all this stuff, I want to be able to give you the things that you need to avoid all of this wasted work. Now, I went through a big kind of like renovation of my AI house about a month and a half ago, and stripped things way down. This is when Fable was coming out, and I was playing with that model, and it was going okay until it didn't. They introduced Opus 5. Again, I'm not blaming the model, but these are milestones that I measure it in. So when the newer models coming out, I started noticing behavior changes far beyond what I had noticed before. And things really started to go downhill. That dragged me in. Now I started doing ablations and really ripping out the internals of my Claude environment, reshaping the harness that I created to do the work that I need it to do. And I've done videos on decoding that harness. I did that a couple of weeks back, but it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And this morning, I called it quits. I kind of gave up, because I said, this is not working. I'm spending far too much time building and correcting and building and correcting, never getting to the thing. A perfect example being, I need an organization system, right? I've got Stonetree, Generator, I've got digital products that I have. I've got my book that I'm trying to promote and get people to buy, right? I'm not a book promoter, and I know that, while also doing the work for Stonetree that is photography work and video work. And then there's also the content creation and the things that I'm trying to build, other applications, the teleprompter, all these things that I do. I need to wrap some sort of control around, because it's just a scattered mess, right? I can't do it all and keep it all in my head at the same time. So I tried Notion, and I tried Asana, and I tried Trello, and I tried Apple Notes, and I tried all of the applications out there. And nothing really seems to work, because my habits and behaviors themselves don't change. So I went in this morning and I said, I'm losing my mind. I just need this to work. I need a structure around everything that I've built, so that I can get on with my life, so that I can just stop worrying and just start producing. So this morning, I gave it a kind of a last ditch effort, but I did it in a different way. So what I had been doing in the past was staying in VS Code, doing a bunch of stuff in there, and then hoping that it worked. The problem is, every Claude file that I'd built, the Claude.md files, right? The things that run Claude, his basic brain, his foundational brain, I had screwed up so badly over the past 6 months that my rules were conflicting with each other. And I used the desktop version, a clean session, nothing having to do with my development environment. And I used Fable and I deconstructed everything. And it said, boy, oh boy, did you screw this up. And you've got all of these rules that are conflicting. So the problem isn't nuke and pave and let's just start over from scratch. I've built too much to get rid of that. I went through and cleaned everything up. Now, right before, like I was working right up until about 10 minutes before I went live here. And I'm still not done. I've been working since about 9 o'clock this morning. So what's that? 7, 10 hours of work in Claude trying to fix this issue. And I think I'm there. I don't know. I didn't finish testing it, but I got to the end of my task list and I'll check it out after this. But there were so many moments in there where I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm quitting. I'm out. And that's very much unlike me. It's very much unlike me to quit. I'm an always forward kind of guy, right? There's always a solution, there's always something next. Believe me, I've screamed into the void before and wanted to end everything and kept moving forward, kept moving forward. So getting upset and thinking about Claude and calling it quits, would it have changed my life? No. Just kind of keep doing my work like I was doing 6 months ago. But it started to dawn on me that I was looking to call it quits in a lot of areas of my life lately. So, yesterday, now over the weekends, sometimes I do Zoom calls with other friends and other colleagues, and we talk AI, we talk content creation, and I probably spend 4 or 6 weeks every weekend doing that, 4 or 6 hours every weekend doing that with people. And it's great. You get a little bit of camaraderie, you understand what other people are doing, and it's a big support system as well. And I was talking to my friend Doc last night, and we had been going on and on and on about how things he's about the same level that I am in working in AI, and we've been facing the same frustrations and coming up against the same obstacles. And we realized that we're now starting to bump up, and this may sound egotistical, it's not. We've grown beyond what most people use AI for. And without being software engineers and developers working on direct code, what we're doing is trying to analyze behavior and understand how these models are working so that we can teach you guys a little bit better how to use it, obstacles to avoid, right? So we're talking, and then that conversation went into the skills that we have, and we started talking about being a creator. So we kept widening the scope, right? Looking at this, trying to decipher why we had felt this sense of ennui, this sense of malaise that things were just not going well. And what we realized is that, well, I'll speak for me, I won't speak for Doc. What I realized is that I am so completely out of alignment with what makes me happy that I keep defaulting to might as well just pack it in and quit. And that's so unlike me to say something like that, to think like that. I don't tend to do that, but I'm worn out. I'm burnt out. I've been trying to keep my Stonetree, the photography business going amidst a world where photography is being devalued day in and day out. Not saying work doesn't exist. I'm not saying I'm being replaced by AI. Those are all bullshit excuses. But there is a thing now where photography is not at the same value that it was. Why? Because everybody's got a phone in their pocket. And those phone cameras are great. And now it's just kind of good enough, right? We've kind of arced up with vulnerable and authentic content. And now that we're there, the polished stuff just doesn't really need to be created anymore. So the professionals that have spent our lives working on this craft, well, we can still do it and we still get hired to do it, but the social value has plummeted. So clients aren't doing as much anymore. They're not coming in as often as they used to. And we've talked about this up and down for quite a while. We've talked about being a creator and trying to make a living as a creator for a long time now, and how difficult it's becoming, even more so than 2020, 2021, 2022, right? Things were going down. Now, depending on how you look at it, in the photography world, things might be on the upswing, they might be flattening out. What I've noticed in my circles and the conversations that I'm having and the things that I observe, right? Because weapons grade autism, I get to kind of see patterns and trends in everything. One of the things that I've observed is that very few of my photography friends are making a living 100% from photography anymore. Let me say that again. Very few of my photography friends that are full time photographers are making a full time income from photography. And they have to supplement it, much the same way I do, with teaching, with other types of jobs, with digital products, with coming up with new businesses completely that might kind of play in the same creative space, but aren't necessarily done with a camera in the hand. I know for me, it's been building digital products, thinking about ways that I can help the community, content creation, podcasting, writing, like all these things are me trying to diversify my own little portfolio of creative stock and generate more income to survive. I don't live a lavish lifestyle, and nor do most of my friends, but it's becoming harder and harder to make a living. And it's really been crossing my mind lately. Do I quit? And I think I've been poking around the edges of this for a long time. And no, I'm not quitting. All right, spoiler alert, when we get to the end of this TLDR, I am not quitting. But I'm shifting, right? And we've talked about some of the shift that I'm doing, going into AI education and spending a lot of time here because it feels good. It's aligned with who I am. Many problems as I have with Claude, I love technology and I love where it's going. I eschew a lot of the arguments that people make about data centers and water consumption, not because I'm ignorant to the fact, but I think the the panic is overblown. There's a lot of fact there, but the panic is overblown, especially when those people are commenting from their iPhone, which goes to a data center somewhere. But that's an argument for a whole nother day. Point I'm trying to make is I've been trying to diversify. I'm seeing most of my friends diversify. I'm also seeing the landscape of photography change. Conferences are changing. Podcasts are popping up all over the place. Pretty much nailed that. The the fact that people are searching and searching and searching for something new is both good and bad. Two, it's going to expand what creatives are doing. It's going to expand professional photography because now people will come up with great ideas and push the industry in new directions. And I love that. Innovation is fantastic. But I think what you're also going to see is a lot of folks just drop off and call it quits because they just can't do it anymore. And I don't blame them. Three friends of mine have closed their studio just in the last year. How do I know that? Well, one, they told me, and two, I inherited most of their gear. So it's all at my studio now. And invariably, I ask them the same question: why? What's going on? Lack of clients, or it's way harder to get clients. Referrals aren't happening the way that they used to. And the marketing landscape has shifted so much that no one knows what to do other than the traditional marketing of go out, network, talk to people, do good work, right? Have good conversations, build relationships, all of that. And in the photography world in particular, I think as much education as there is on YouTube, there's very little talking about the reality of making it as a professional photographer or professional creative. I'm going to expand out. We're not even going to just talk photography. We're going to talk, just overall creation. And the thing about being a working creative, being a solopreneur, being someone that owns their own business and tries to make a living producing creative work for others is the mental load that goes along with it. If you have a creative hobby, you make jewelry, you finger paint, you do photography, stain glass, whatever it is, you spend thousands of hours getting good at that. And at some point, sometimes it happens soon, sometimes it happens later. At some point, you start to get paid. And at some point, you consider maybe I start a business. And when you start that business, if you don't have good business fundamentals, you're either going to luck out and it'll go great for the rest of your career, or it won't and you'll burn out in 6 months, or you're like the rest of us, which is you survive for a year or two or three, four. Most small businesses do not make it past that 3 to 5 year mark. I've been doing it for 13 now. So I think I've built the calluses on myself to actually survive this thing. But the mental load that comes along with it, and I'm not talking about how do I grow and what is the next creative shoot going to look like, or what's the next project that I'm going to. It's not the craft that takes the toll. It's the business that takes the toll. Most often we're doing this by ourselves. We don't necessarily have the help. And I see so many creative solopreneurs that just don't know when to call it quits. God knows I've burned through my retirement trying to keep everything alive. And I've done it. I got through some of the worst periods. But now what? It's not getting any better. I'm doing bigger jobs than I've ever done before. And it's not getting any better. So when I look around and I see, other friends of mine that are very successful and they're doing great, they've been at it for 15, 20, 25 years and they're exhausted. And they'll say the same thing, that the mental load takes its toll. So let's back up just a bit to the beginning of the conversation where you start to think about, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? What's aligned here as a creative? Are you feeling like every morning you wake up and you cannot wait to do the thing? You've got bookings everywhere, you've got projects lined up, you've got customers that are waiting for their orders to be fulfilled, all of that. If you're in that point, ride that wave, ride it, treasure it, suck the marrow out of it, because those are the great days. And no matter how long you've been in business, those days continue to happen and they continue to surprise you. Problem is, they get fewer and fewer. There's more moderate days in between. It's just the way that it is. So here I am 13 years in, and I have a major career shift, major life shift, basically every seven or 8 years. And it happened when I was in the nightclubs and DJing and working in biotech. And then I moved into high tech and I worked in that for, well, about 12 years. But there were about the 7 year mark, I moved from IT to HR and then, moved on from there. When I became a photographer, I was doing all product work, right? I was working the defense industry, the outdoor industry, writing for magazines, doing all the cool guy stuff. But after about 7 years, that got really boring and I moved into portraits. I love portraits. I love human connection. I love talking to people. But it's been about 7 or 8 years and I'm feeling that same shift starting to happen. But it's not the same thing as quitting. I think if I were to hang up my camera tomorrow and find a job delivering pizzas or landscaping or a massive career shift. If I were to do that, I would feel so much regret, even though the burden would be lifted of how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to pay my studio rent? Where am I getting benefits? Am I ever going to go on a vacation again? Right? Those things I would regret. I would regret that I didn't give it enough time. But I'm at the point where I've given it a lot of time. And I don't necessarily know anything other than having conversations with you all as to what I do. And I'm not asking you to advise me like, hey, Matt, you know what you should do? You should become a proctologist because your head's so far up your ass, you'd be great at it. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I do a lot of my thinking out loud. And when I start to bubble over where I've talked to a lot of people and I just need to widen my scope, I come on here and I'm asking you. So I want you to put, I'm going to check the comments in about 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. So if you're out there and you're listening, there's a whole bunch of you watching. If you're out there listening and any of this resonates, let me know what you're doing. Are you in this place of in between? Are you in this place of not knowing what's next? Do you have a job that supplements your creative life, or are you a creative only and are wildly successful, or are you struggling? And there's no shame in any of it. And I'm not here to shame anybody if you're struggling. I'm struggling. And while I've been able to hustle and hustle and hustle and keep things going, I'm also 52 and it gets really old really fast. So I say all of this for the last 27 minutes. Things are shifting. I'm applying for jobs. I'm putting my name out there. I wrote my first resume since 2012 the other day. I haven't written a resume in 2000. I didn't even know how to write a resume. I was like, do people even write resumes anymore? Is that a thing? Or do we just show people our Instagrams and say, this is what I do? I honestly, I've been out of the quote unquote workforce for so long. I don't know how any of that works anymore. So where do I go? I go to Claude. Hey, Claude, help me out with my resume. Here's my LinkedIn page. Here's everything that I've done. Spit it out and then I'll correct it and we'll kind of put something together. And I put it together and I realized that I've done a lot of stuff that from whatever direction I come, I feel like I'm going to be okay. But it wasn't that. It wasn't the, I got a little boost of confidence. I've got some miles behind me and I know what I'm doing. It wasn't that. What it was there's this through line of alignment. When I was working in biotech, I was working for Biogen for a couple of years. We're working on this MS drug. Both of my sisters have MS. So it was very near and dear to my heart to be working for a company like that. When I got into high tech, I was acquired. My company, not my company, but the company I was working for was acquired by Cisco Systems. And then I tended to work for them. And what I found was when I was doing these acquisition integrations, the most joy that I got was helping that one person understand that the world isn't over just because the company got acquired, that there was a path through it, that everything was going to be okay. Even if inevitably they lose their job, everything was going to be okay. And I was sincere in that. When I got into photography and portraiture, especially, I realized how much I loved helping people discover different sides of themselves or reinforce the things about themselves that they love that they never tell anybody about, right? The quirky little lines in their forehead that remind them of their father, right? Things like that. I love helping people do that. But I noticed that of the work that I've done this year, very little of it aligned with helping people. I just did a great job for Ecamm, did a lot of work for them. Those that company is one of my favorite companies on the planet, not just because of the software, but because of the people that are there. Amazing company. I've been able to help a few small businesses. level up their marketing because they can't do what I do. And what I do is provide that service and it helps them. But most of the work that I've done this year has been a lot of real estate. It's been a lot of jobs that I'm just kind of like, don't really want to do it. So it's not aligned. I don't feel good. Yet I sit here for 12, 13 hours a day trying to fight to make myself feel like I'm working harder and harder and harder. Longer hours, more stuff, produce more, make more. Something's going to hit. Don't stop. Don't stop. I'm a big believer in compound interest, in those little steps every day adding up. But that's a lot of steps to be taken over 13 years. And I just got to the point where I was just about ready to quit. But what we're going to do right now, before I get to that, the second half of the show, we're going to look at some comments. So let's see who's in here. Steven is in here. Hey, what's the definition of an optimist? A trombonist with a pager. Okay. Let's see. Kelly Robitaw, yay, caught you live again. I'm so glad you're here. You're going to come on the podcast. We're going to have another conversation like this about AI. You're coming on. We're going to figure it out. I use vidIQ, useful for creating titles, tags. Yep, vidIQ is great. TubeBuddy is great. All that sort of stuff. So Marianne is here. Hubby says, I have 6-week cycle when I change my mind when it comes to what I want to do. Yeah, I think that's one of the things with a creative mind is that we're always looking for new and we see the world in a different way. And it's not uncommon that you change your mind. I would probably say I change my mind much faster than 6 weeks, but I think the major shifts happen about every 7 or 8 years, a 7-year itch maybe, but about every 7 or 8 years, I completely shift my career or, do a whole different job, major, or get divorced or move to another state or whatever it is. So I tend to go big or go home. So David says, I honestly don't know where to go. So I'm just doing daily walks and shooting things my own soul. I don't feel lost. I have good months and bad months, but overall, I'm not happy. The conversation feels really close to where I am at the moment. David, this is why I want to have it, right? You're such an incredible, incredible photographer. You're such an incredibly kind human being. And it hurts my heart to know that you're struggling too, the same way that everybody out there is struggling. It hurts me to know that there's so many talented, gifted, driven, passionate creatives that aren't able to make it work. So let's figure out how we support each other in that anyway. So David, I'm glad you're here, my friend. Kim is here. Hey Kim, how are you doing? Matt, my friend, the hustle is the game. It's cruising at speed on the interstate, then changing lanes or taking that pause at a rest area. We don't take the next exit. It's exactly right, man. There's no way forward but forward. And I think, you know, what you're saying there, the hustle is the game. It's cruising at speed on the interstate. Like there are going to come times where you do have to pull over and reevaluate, right? Your map. I almost said map quest. Might as well just use a TomTom and try to navigate. And if you don't know what that is, you're probably too young to be on this stream. So just saying. All right, moving on. Fairly certain all creatives can relate to this and right there with you. Good. Full-time creator. Oh, hey, Brad. Good to have you here, man. Lots of inconsistency as far as income, but it's working. I have many creative friends that work a day job for security, which allows them to be front. No shame in that. No shame in that at all. And Brad, from meeting you years ago, I'm so glad to see you still being an artist and creating. And I still have that thing you gave me on the range that day. Let's see, I'm 68, retired and playing music all day. It sounds like the perfect life. Becca's agreeing with David. And Becca, damn it, I am so glad you're here too. Artist Forge Royalty in the house. Hello from LA, where I'm trying to get it off the ground in a bigger market. If it wasn't for my branding program, I would have had to close years ago. And Kelly's saying the uncertainty is what's so hard to deal with. Do you continue pushing forward with what you're doing or pivot to move with the times? I feel like from a creative perspective, we can always find, everything moved. We can always find the passion, but how we implement it might have to change. And I think that's where I'm going with all of this. Um, Nicole saying your voice is like butter. You look great. Oh, flattery gets you everywhere, Nicole. Love you. Yeah, the shift in the whole industry, a lot of people are shifting focus because the industry is changing in these growing pains, and shifts aren't for everyone. Ain't that the truth? Marketing language of see yourself in a new light doesn't work anymore. It's been challenging, but I feel 100% this is too shall pass. We just need to pivot, ebb and flow. I agree with that. I think we're going to get back to some of these comments. I just want to read through them so everybody knows where we're at. Um, this is why I love Matt. So he's like, that's the rest area, that's the positive value. And you meant to say triple A triptych, you old man. All right. So I think there's a lot of similarity in what everybody's saying, which is, yeah, stuff's changing a little bit. But the ones that are committed to succeeding for themselves are going to succeed. And that can be continuing with your business, supplementing your business with a different type of income, or turning that business back into a hobby and doing something completely different. Maybe it's retiring and not doing anything at all, like Steven. That's just playing guitar all day. I'd love that. I'd love to do that. But I think when it gets into when do you know when the time is right? Only you can decide that. For me, what the symptoms typically are is I'm not sleeping anymore, right? Can you see these? I'm not sleeping anymore. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not touching grass going outside because I feel like if I leave my desk or if I'm not working, then I'm going to miss an opportunity. And that's so antithetical to everything I actually believe. Because when you love what you do and you do it correctly, you should have time built in for a harmonious life. There's no balance, and I've said this 100 times. There's no balance, but you can find harmony. I love a chaotic schedule. I really do. It fills me with passion. I get to move around a lot. I love traveling because when I'm in a different place, I'm focused and I'm present and nothing else matters and I'm not chained to a desk and I'm not looking at Claude and I'm not looking at my phone and I'm not doing anything that takes my attention away from the things that I love to do. But it gets old fast when you know you've succeeded at a level and you're just not there anymore. And I don't mean talent wise, it's just getting harder and harder to hit those same numbers. And that starts to drain some of the drive and ambition from you. It starts to really take its toll. I find myself not drinking enough water, not taking care of myself, not spending time with my girlfriend, not going out and walking the dog the way that I used to, going 4, 5, 6 miles at a time. Now we're up to the corner and back just to get it done, check it off the list. And when I say list, I'm talking this is easily just that's a Monday, just having a full page of to dos. That's a normal Monday. Not, oh, I'm going to do 2 things today and call it a day. There's never end to all this stuff. But what I realized is with Claude freeing up time and me now producing more, I inadvertently overloaded myself with too many things and pulled myself apart so far that I wasn't enjoying anything. I love taking photos. And that really was reaffirmed in me when I was doing these past couple of big jobs. I did a job for daughter of a friend of mine. I did the commercial work that I had been doing. I'm doing a little bit more commercial work now, and it feels good to be doing that. I realize why I fell in love with it in the first place. But I also realize that there are so many other parts of my life that are out of whack, out of sync. So I'm pivoting. Studio is not closing tomorrow, but I've already come to peace with the fact that if it closes in the next month, 6 months, 12 months, I'm okay with it because applying for jobs got me over that hump of saying, if I apply for a job outside of what I'm doing now, if I can't be a 110% photographer, then I'm a failure. And I have my identity so wrapped up in being a photographer that I couldn't see the forest for the trees. I couldn't enjoy the journey that I was on because there was always more. There's always another bar to reach, right? Because we mask in this industry, especially, we mask and say that everything's great and everything's wonderful. And oh, everybody's business is successful on Instagram, but then you look behind the scenes and everybody's a mess. Not everybody, but you get what I'm saying. So when I said, when is it time to call it quits? I think for me, calling it quits is the mental shift in identity for me. I'm okay not being a photographer anymore. Why? Because after writing this resume and looking at the shit I've done for my life and looking at what I'm doing now, I feel really good that no matter where I pivot, whatever I land on will work for me. Why? Because I know that whatever it is that I pivot to will really feel aligned with what it is that my purpose is, which is helping people, being that guide, being that mentor, right? I don't want to be the hero of anybody's story. I want to be the guide that helps them through. Why? Because I've probably walked the same road that you're traveling down right now. So if I can help you, that's awesome. I love that. That fulfills me. That gives me so much joy to see someone's life be easier because of something I did. And I don't need credit for it. I don't need adulation. What I need is for you to continue feeling good doing that thing. So if someone calls me and says, "Hey, can you help walk me through Claude?" Yeah, absolutely. And then 3 weeks later, they say, "Thank God you did that because now everything's working great." Or if I take pictures and someone says they see themselves, them, they feel more like themselves when they look at these pictures. That's one of the biggest compliments that I could ever get. Anytime I get to help someone, that makes me feel great. I moderate in a few different communities, both for Ecamm, and I'm an ambassador for 17 Hats, and I do some other stuff for a couple of other companies, all pro bono. Why? Because I love the result of what comes from that, helping people, serving others through that service. And I am not a religious person, I am not a man of faith, but through that service to others, it fills me with absolute contentment, absolute peace, absolute joy. And that's what I want to do. So, as I'm looking around and applying for jobs, I'm like, what are the things, putting ego aside, right? The things that I've done, the huge salaries that I've had in the past, I will work for far less, let's say, than I could probably get in a bigger city. But it's not about the money for me. It's not about the salary. I'm very financially driven, but it's not about that for me. What it's about is waking up and saying, I love what I do. I love helping people. I love fixing things. I love using this really weird brain of mine and all the random stuff I've collected up here to be able to help you get through or think through something differently or maybe give you a different perspective on things. So it doesn't matter to me what the money is. What matters to me is the opportunity that I get. What are the tasks that I'll be given? Will it give me a sense of stability in my life? Will I be able to pay my bills without having to worry about going out and all right, I've got to shoot this project and then put it on Instagram and hope that people come from it and then they'll see that and they'll like my work and then they'll come to the studio and then they'll pay me for pictures, and then hopefully they'll tell their friends, and then I've got to do the same thing tomorrow and the day after and the day after. And yeah, that's working for yourself. You got to hustle, right? Like Matt was saying. But there's also a lot of hope pinned to it. And I don't like hope is not a strategy in any way, shape, or form. And I will throw cliches at you all day long. Hope is not a strategy. Strategically, I want stability. I want to give up this roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship. Why? Because I'm kind of tired of it at this point. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop with my businesses, but they're going to become less of a focus while I shift into something else. And again, I don't know what that shift is, but I'm actively now thinking about it. I've shed the layers of identity that kept me handcuffed to being a photographer, and I'm now able to see a landscape that's much more wide open and gives me so many more opportunities to do the things that I want to do. And it's funny, when I linked up with the larger, broader creator community, not just photographers, not just videographers, but the larger creative community, I realized how much I was missing out on the joy of doing this. And in the photography industry in particular, a lot of times people can't see past that industry. And it was the same way in the defense world, the same way that it was in high tech. They can't see past that industry because they feel like they've built their identity and their career in one place, and that's all that they can be. If I'm a photographer, then I have to work in the photography industry. I have to start, if I want to grow the studio in a certain way, or become a mentor, or try to get national attention, or try to speak at conferences, or maybe I start my own retreat. Maybe I do a lot of workshops so I can be seen as a teacher. Maybe I do, promotional or gear reviews and I can supplement that way, but it's always in the photography world. I don't want to do that. I want to look outside. I want to go back and looking at high tech. I want to think about AI. What are the things that I can do that draw from my skills, but maintain that creative consistency? The creativity, the ability to help people, that's that whole pie for me. Going back into the photo industry, having that be my sole career, does not interest me. And that's a big statement for me to make. Meaning, I don't want to get trapped in that world again because that's where I was. And I feel like I may have missed some opportunities along the way, but that's neither here nor there, right? So, when I think about what it is I do next, I don't know what that's going to be. I think it's going to be a mix of creativity, a mix of photography, a mix of technology, a mix of content creation, broadcasting, audio, video, technical know how, writing, speaking, all of these things, when taken together, informed into one glob of alignment, joy. Isn't that what we all look for? And I don't know what that is, but I was so driven that I had to have an answer. I have to know what's next. That I created this chaotic environment around me and nothing good came of it. Meaning, it was just drawing. I lost the fun. I lost the plot. It just wasn't good anymore. So, as I start to land this plane, I'm going to go back to the comments for a second and see who else is in here. Cat's in here. Oh boy, there's a whole. I missed so many comments. I need a moderator. Anybody want to be a moderator? Um, let's see. Let's go to the comments, shall we? Let's go to the comments. I see photographers waiting for certainty instead of deciding to go all in. Love this. love the fact that you've got to make the decision to go all in. And, Kat's one of the best at what she does, but I think that decision, these are the inflection points, right? As Seth, the tipping point, as Seth Godin called it, that are the moments that we have to make decisions for ourselves as to how we control our own future. And you can't just kind of half-ass it and hope for things. Um, Hi from Australia, turning 70 soon. Just do photography for love now. Chris, man, you're so positive. I love seeing what you do. You're amazing. Thank you for being here. Um, Kelly's getting called out by Kat. I'll let you two resolve that. We're just do it out here in public. What did I miss? Okay. Um, from my own life crisis, Becca says, from art to science, a quote from a recent read by an evolutionary scientist on the end of the world. Our brains evolved in a world, I'll probably have to put this up twice. Our brains evolved in a world where major population threatening crises were regularly happening. We have brains full of risk management strategies and social abilities that help us deal with catastrophic events, both on an individual and collective societal level. Humans who couldn't deal with that catastrophe didn't survive, so we've come a long evolutionary line of apocalypse hardy humans who work together to get through some of the hardest of times. Man, just dropping quotes that inspire and inform. And God, I miss talking to you, Becca, and having this energy of insight and just an intelligent conversation. Not that I haven't had intelligent conversations since I took. Anyway, let's move on. Let's see. Michelle, I love you. I made that decision to take a career break because life is so very precious. It's been life changing. Keep inspiring us. Oh, thank you. Now, Michelle is someone that I worked with at Cisco Systems well over a decade ago and is truly still one of my favorite humans. I need more than a comment to respond to that. Oh, she's having a conversation with Kat. I really need to say no more so I can do what I love and less of what I hate. Saying no is very important. I need to go back to shooting me, which is why they hired me to begin with. But don't forget, when we lose our dads, our whole worldview changes, and there's a big growth spurt we have. It's like we have to be adults all of a sudden. You and I have both gone through this. Amen, sister. It's definitely, when you lose a parent, I think there is that inevitable shift into, taking a look at the world, a little bit of mortality, and clock is ticking for me too. What does that mean? How am I going to spend the rest of my life? What are, all of that existential part, with which comes with a major loss. So yeah, I've been seeing that, Nicole. I'm skimming through some of these comments. It's brilliant. Go through the comment thread. I don't have to put them all up here. This is an amazing conversation that's turning in here. Now, Nicole does say, I've heavily turned to faith these last few years, and it's changed me. It helps me know that I'm exactly where I need to be personally, in business, financially, all the things you talk about. And Chantel, who's another photographer here in Maine. Hi, Chantel. Preach. That's exactly what I did. Um, wow. I'm going to have to look through all of these comments later. I could spend hours just reading these comments. I think, I think the conversation is important. Like I said, the whole part of this was when to call it quits. And I don't know. I can't decide that for you. But I know the indicators for me that start to slide towards quitting are the same smoke signals that tell me, all right, things are way off. It's time to change. It's time to shift. And it doesn't even have to be a dramatic shift. It can be a shift in habit, your sleeping habit, forcing yourself to exercise a little bit more. All of these things that change your physiology and help you feel better can change your outlook. Maybe the situation that you're in isn't so bad. Maybe it isn't so dire. I know for me, I can catastrophize with the best of them and say, oh God, I don't know how I'm going to make it. I don't know how I'm going to make it. And I've had some really close calls the past 2 years about not being able to make it. And I've held on so tightly to that identity of who I had created for myself that my grip was too tight. I wasn't able to maintain that. And as I started to loosen that everything started to open up. It's okay. It's okay to shift. I don't have to prove myself to anyone, and neither do you. No matter what you do, no matter where you are, no matter how much money you make, no matter what you identify as, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You have to make you happy. And I know for me, the way that I do that is by doing things that feel aligned, by saying no to the things that don't serve me, that I know I'm going to half ass, that I know I'm not going to deliver the quality that I want to deliver because my heart's not in it. I don't want to do that. I don't want that reputation to be mine where, yeah, he's all right. I want everything that I do to be heartfelt, driven. It doesn't have to be paid and it doesn't have to be successful. But what I want it to be is truly from here. And I haven't been feeling that lately. I haven't been doing podcasts because I didn't feel like anything that I was talking about was worth it. My guests were great and they're starting up again soon. I've got a couple of people on the roster. They're going to start up again the end of this month. But I had to take a break because I realized I was forcing it and I was phoning it in and I wasn't doing it in the way that I had when I first started Generator. Generator's not going anywhere, but it will be put out when it feels right. And I think as creatives, we have to be thinking about that. We've become inundated with getting sucked into this machine of creativity. You have to produce to be relevant. You have to post 2 to 3 times a day on every major platform. You have to take a long form piece of content and cut it into short form pieces of content, and then take that content and turn it into a Substack article that you then promote back onto the platforms where you posted that short form content. Then from those questions, you create more long form content, and on and on and on. What kind of fucking treadmill is that for people that want to take their time and deliver art to the world? I don't know, man, but it wore me out. I'm done with it. I'll put out photos when I feel like it. I'll put out video when I feel like it. I'll do podcasts when I feel like it. I'll get a job when I feel like it. I've never felt like photography was a job. As difficult as it is at times, I've never felt it's a job. It's a very cool thing I get to do for people. That's it. So I can go talking for hours and hours and hours. You know that. I am going to go back. I looked at the comments for 1 second, and Marianne, who's becoming an incredibly dear friend of mine, says, "Who's to say you have to have the answer now? We can't make any good decisions when we're burnt out. Rest and play. That can be both content creation and other creative avenues." And I think there's no better way to sum this up than that. You don't have to make a choice now. Give your brain a chance to rest so that you can see the world clearly. A lot of times we feel like we're going to quit because it's hard at the moment. And maybe the kids need to be driven somewhere, or maybe the client didn't pay you as much, you didn't make as big of a sale as you thought you were going to make, or you don't have the bookings, or whatever the case is. It's never as dire as you think it is. Never. But sometimes you do need a bit of reevaluation. And the only way you can do that is with a clear mind and a clear heart. So do the things that you can in the time that you're availed to just step back from it all, look at it from a different perspective. I know I've been far too close to the AI stuff. I've been far too worried about keeping all of these plates spinning at the same time because something's going to hit, someone's going to see it, it's going to take off. And that's putting my entire future in someone else's hands. I'm not doing that anymore. And I love the fact that I get to be here with you all and feel safe in talking about all of this and know that from time to time, some of you feel the same way or that you've gone through the same thing. It makes me feel less alone, helps me build a little bit more of this tribe. This right here, this is the community that everybody hopes they can build. And it doesn't have to be big, 15, 20 people. This is the community we need. People talking, people understanding, people listening. Sometimes we just need to be heard. So I'm going to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending the past hour of your life with me. No matter what you're doing, I hope there was something in here that hit home. And let's keep the conversation going. If there was something in particular that you liked, send me a note. Put a comment here. Send me a note, matt@stonetreecreative.com, and let's continue the conversation. I'd love to do that because from you, I get a lot of insight. When I spend all my time in my head, I can convince myself of anything, right? Everything's true. I can find an answer to anything. But sometimes I need that outside perspective like I had from Doc yesterday. So you're not alone at all. I got your back. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for helping me for over a decade doing what I do. You're all appreciated. I love you all. Thanks. I'll see you next time.